here in St. Augustine, Florida. This is Jorge Rivera with FirstCoast.tv. We find ourselves here with Amy Robb, and she's like the public relations person behind this Pecha Kucha. So, Amy, what is Pecha Kucha?
So, Pecha Kucha, or Pecha Kucha, as it's pronounced in Japanese, is was a concept developed about over 10 years ago by two architects living in Tokyo, Japan. And originally it became it was a venue for people to come together, young architects to come together and share their work. They felt like all the other architects and professionals in their community were always long-winded and taking up the podium for too long, so they kind of came back and decided to do their own grassroots version. And they decided also, though, that their industry comrades were too long-winded, and so they needed to set a finite time, and so they developed this format, which is really characteristic of a Pecha Kucha night, or a Pecha Kucha talk, which is to have 6 slides, or 6 minutes and 40-second presentations, 20 slides, 20 seconds each slide.
Wow.
And so every presenter tonight will be working in that format, and we call it the art of concise presentation.
Ah, and what kind of people show up tonight? I mean, what are the fields?
It's grown for us. Each city, there's Pecha Kucha is coordinated in over 800 cities around the globe.
Wow.
And so every city kind of has its own look and feel, and ours is very much a reflection of our city coordinators. It's myself and 2 other women, Ari and Angie, and we are very relaxed, and we wanted it to really be a place for anybody to share their ideas. The only criteria we have is that you don't try to sell anybody anything, and that you share an idea that you're really passionate about. And you don't have to be an expert, you just have to have something that you want to share with your community.
All right. So about how many people are you expecting tonight, probably?
Well, we thought that because it was the summer one, that it would be our least attended event ever. But it turns out that we've had more responses than ever, which surprised us. We've had mostly we average between 200 and 300 people per event, and it started like nine volumes ago with only 1 person. Or no, sorry, with only 50 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the event at 6 o'clock is more of a greet and meet kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's very much a social hour.
And then 7 to 9 is when the event
are the
really kicks off.
presentations. Yep, and then we run them in 2 chunks. The first chunk is 5 speakers. The second chunk tonight will be 6 speakers. So it's about 40-minute blocks.
All right.
Let me introduce our first speaker tonight. Sarah Anay. Now hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah is a wedding photographer, and she teaches photography to women in disadvantaged parts of the world.
So to give a camera to someone in a disadvantaged area of the world, like why, right? So, you know, education's not seen as a priority in most of India, especially in Calcutta, where it's still very conservative in its ideals. So to give them a camera is to give them a voice. It's giving them another skill. It's giving them an ability to share something about themselves, which often they can't. So, but they were so attentive. They could have listened to me talk for hours about anything because they just want to learn. They were so amazed by it. And she told me one day in a cab, another word for a wife in Calcutta is a servant. And this is something that really stuck with me. I was like, wow, you know, all these girls that I'm working with are planning on getting married, and I just can't imagine them becoming servants, right? So this is a photo that Priyanka took, one of my students, and when she took this image, I was just like, oh my gosh, you just started taking photographs 2 weeks ago. And I know that this is the story of Calcutta that they would want me to share with you.
So ladies and gentlemen, Lillian is a PhD in archaeology, and she's lived all over the place. She's lived in the UK, and I won't hold that against her. She's lived in the Caribbean, spent a lot of time down in Antigua, and came to St. Augustine about 3 years ago.
I'm an archaeologist, and these are my reflections on history, the past, and the future of heritage management in St. John's County. Now, my PhD is not in development, it's in heritage management. For we know that while natural resources are usually renewable, historic ones are not. The Timucuan Indians, Spanish explorers and colonists who once lived here are gone forever. Their descendants remain. How many of you are born in St. Augustine? And now, as an archaeologist, I use ruins and broken pots to tell the stories of people who are gone. Because in 1987, the city passed an ordinance which mandated that developments consider the historic resources when they're demolishing or building a building. As a result, we've recorded over 80 sites in the city limits, including the most recent at Milltop Tavern downtown. And what we found is 300 years of history. Artifacts like the Indian pot that you see here and the tortoise shell, which tell a story about the city's history that goes back 300 years. On one hand, development brings opportunities to archaeology. 90% of the archaeology that's done in this country today is funded by development and is contract-based. And without those projects, we wouldn't record many of the sites that we know about. On the other hand, as we all know it, development puts pressure on these resources that are finite and non-renewable. Thanks to the laws, we're able to record them. So thanks, St. Johns County. Let's keep on going. Thanks.
Publications. This woman is a writer, a fitness instructor, and a domestic engineer. And as you can tell by the title, she's a wicked sense of humor. Ladies and gentlemen, big hand, Tricia Booker, and her presentation as Terminator.
My husband and I settled into a life with pretty plates of new Cuisinart and sex. We waited. When I stopped using birth control, it was like letting go of a rope swing. I hoped to land in cool spring waters, awakening me a hidden woman endowed with milk-filled breasts and patience. But I kept landing in sand. I called the doctor. The first test he did was designed to see whether my husband and I were compatible. Apparently, just because a man and woman cohabitate doesn't mean their sperm and eggs get along. Sometimes the women's antibodies attack the sperm. I found this shocking. He called my name a few minutes later, smiled at me encouragingly, and my heart flipped. She led me into a little room, and she looked into my eyes. "You're not pregnant," she said. And I'm bare. I resorted to praying I wasn't pregnant. And I wasn't. But that turned out to be a very good thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Sostrom.
So I've been immersed in music pretty much my whole life. Since I was a little kid, my mom would always have the radio on, and I would flip through her Hot Tuna and Youngbloods LPs. I'd flip through the 45s that my sisters left in our finished basement. But I do remember when I acquired this album, Music for 18 Musicians. It was in a record store called The Theory Shop in Jacksonville, and I went through their bargain bin and I found the album for $2 and was blown away that not only had I found it, but it was only $2. And I ran home and put it on right away, and then I played it consistently over the next couple of years, but despite having played it for 2 decades now, I've only recently become obsessed with this piece of music. And every time I would play it, I would get really sad that it was over. And what would happen if I listened to this piece of music on repeat for 24 hours? Would I end up hating it? It's my favorite piece of music. Would I appreciate it even more? Would I discover the secret to the universe? So I set out to do this 2 Fridays ago, and I began at 3 p.m. on a Friday. On the fourth iteration, I listened with my kids and asked them things like, what instrument do you hear the most? Or how does this make you feel? And you can tell the difference between the two. Someone didn't know one of us. In the end, to sum it up, after hearing this thing for 24 hours, did I lose my mind? I did not. Yeah. Was this absolutely an enriching experience for this piece of music? It totally was. I loved it to death. I love it even more now. I even came back to it 2 days later to listen to it again because I missed it. So, Would I recommend doing that with any other piece of music? Probably not, but with this one, I definitely do.
Gentlemen, our next presenter is Lee Giannoulias. Now, Lee's a retired guy, and he came to St. Augustine, and accidentally found himself immersed in local politics.
Hi, I'm Lee Giannoulias, the accidental activist and the founder of St. Augustine Residents Count. Now, I don't know about those guys in the photo, but I am hot and bothered about development in the city and the way decisions are being made. But why, may you ask, an accidental activist? Well, this is my wife Deborah's hometown. That's her in front of City Hall in 1976, St. Augustine High School cheerleader. We learned that tourism and development are very powerful forces in this small city of 14,000 people. They have tremendous sway here in the city. And we learned that, left unchecked, tourism will consume as much of the city as it needs. This is St. George Street, north of King Street. North is to the left. This is 1960, the Sanborn Fire Insurance map. All those yellow blocks are houses. People live there. Many old Menorcan families. I'll show you the same area today. All those red blocks are once residences, now commercial properties. That red circle shows where 4 homes were destroyed to make room for parking. 90s. We need tourism, but tourism doesn't need us, the residents. And there's another institution consuming downtown St. Augustine, Flagler College. That's Flagler's property in red. But let me tell you, this pot is going to keep boiling. This shows you on the west side of downtown along the river, development approved or underway. 148-room dorm being built, 550-car garage. The city just approved 225-room hotel with 70 condos. You think traffic is bad on King Street now? Just wait. And asking you to get connected and get involved, don't sit in the pot and get boiled. Thank you.
When is the next one? I mean, how often do you guys meet?
Well, we try to meet once a quarter,
Okay.
plan an event once a quarter, but our lives get busy, so sometimes we have one every 6 months. We're going to try to plan our next one for September of this, later this year.
So what's your short-term goal with these meetings?
I think the short-term goal is the short-term goal for Pecha Kucha is very much to bring their community together and to hear voices and to share ideas, to provide a platform for really getting to the stories and to the heart of St. Augustine as a community. Like what inspires us, what keeps us
What
motivated.
makes us ticking, yeah. Yeah. And the long term?
I think that's probably the long term also.
Okay, all right.
I think survival for the city coordinators, because we're all volunteers.
Right, it's
So-
like saying, yeah, it's saying short term is to create boats and ideas, and the long term is to actually have the boat in the water,
Yeah,
right?
that's
I mean,
right.
to
That's
have
right.
a boat that we can actually physically feel.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
We'd love to continue this. We've just recently committed to organizing them for another for at least 4 more
Okay.
volumes. So
Wow.
4 more events are coming up.
Volume 13. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, lucky 13.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I
Thank
hope
you
it was
very much.
helpful.